The NFL draft is a major football event that shakes up the dynasty landscape every single year. Every year, there's a winners and losers column on every football site on planet Earth. And unfortunately, if you wait to see what happens, it might be too late. So, what you need to do is get ahead of the curve. You might be stuck with these dead assets, these undervalued players, if you wait and see what happens after the NFL draft. So in today's video, we're going to try and get ahead of the curve, predict some of the running backs that are going to lose value following the NFL draft because they're a position that has very volatile value based on what could happen in the draft. So if you guys enjoyed this video at any point, leave a like down below, comment any of your thoughts as well, and subscribe if you are new around here. Really appreciate the support we've been seeing on the channel over the past couple videos. But with that being said, let's get right into it. So as I kind of teased in the intro, every cell in this video is going to be a running back. We've long talked about the running back position, the 2023 running back class shaking up the landscape of the running back position around the NFL. And we're absolutely going to see this in the NFL draft because the stone cold truth about this draft class is that it's not a very deep class overall, but the running back class is very strong, very deep, very talented, as is other positions like the tight end position, for example. So last year, to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about and how this can affect their value, last year I talked about guys that were sells before the NFL draft as well, all running backs. Some of the guys I talked about in that video were Michael Carter, who got replaced by Breece Hall in the NFL draft, Rashaad Penny, who got replaced by Kenneth Walker in the NFL draft, and Devin Singletary, whose value plummeted once the Bills drafted James Cook. Even though James Cook didn't make some huge impact, it still really affected a guy like Devin Singletary's value, who was valued as like a top 25 running back before the draft. So last year's running back class also was not as good as this one. The only running backs I'm holding through the NFL draft, if I have running backs in Dynasty, are guys like Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, maybe Travis Etienne. That's pretty much the end of the list. The rest of the running backs around the league are not safe. The guys that I'm about to talk about are solid. They have good workloads if they're able to keep their value, but they're not strong enough to be, proof that a third or a fourth round or even a second or a first round running back addition to their backfield isn't going to affect their value at all. So my philosophy is, why even take the risk, right? Clenching the entire NFL draft, be like, oh my God, please nobody draft a running back. Just sell them now, right? You can even buy them back later after the NFL draft if you really like the player and you still like their outlook. But the draft will affect the value of a lot of these running backs in the NFL. And to get an idea which NFL teams are targeting running backs in the NFL draft, I scoured some draft visits trackers all over the internet here to see which teams might be interested in selecting running backs in the NFL draft. And the results are in this table here. This will be the basis for a lot of these cells in this video. You guys can see the teams that have visited with the most running backs on their top 30 visits are teams like the Dallas Cowboys, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, New Orleans Saints, etc. At the bottom there, we see teams like KC, Seattle, Cleveland, Chicago. Some of these teams have not visited with very many running backs. So the first running back sell of this video is going to be Tony Pollard. And I have him right now running back 13. He's running back 12 on Keep Trade Cut. He's my 60th overall player. He's the 58th overall player on Keep Trade Cut. And Pollard is one that stands out immediately, mainly due to the fact that the Cowboys have met with 9 running backs, which is the most in the NFL. He's coming off of a career year. He finishes a top 10 running back in points per game, and Ezekiel Elliott is now gone. So the case to be excited about Tony Pollard is very easy to see, right? He's going to be thrust into the full workload in the Dallas Cowboys offense. It's usually a high-scoring team, but this Cowboys team probably still wants a back to at least complement Tony Pollard, or also potentially replace him long-term because he's only on the franchise tag. He's 26 years old. I highly doubt they're going to want to pony up and pay another running back after what happened with Ezekiel Elliott. Pollard's an excellent player, right? Don't get me wrong. He's a great player, and he's somebody that you should feel happy about having on your dynasty team. But the Cowboys leading the NFL in running back draft visits and meeting with all the top-end guys, Bijan, Gibbs, Charbonnet, Kendre Millers, like all those types of dudes, means that they're probably thinking long-term at the position. They're probably wanting to get cheaper at that position. And maybe even they want to keep Tony Pollard in his previous role that he's been so successful and so efficient in over the past couple of years. So while I love Tony Pollard in redraft, and even if they added, let's say, Zach Charbonnet or worse in the NFL draft, I would still like him in redraft. His market value at RB12 right now will absolutely plummet at least, 4 to 5 spots if they add somebody who's Charbonnet or worse. And if they added Bijan, obviously, it would plummet a lot more than that. So to mitigate that risk, if you guys are contenders and you don't want to have one of your assets lose a bunch of value, Try and go up from Tony Pollard to Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard to Saquon Barkley, somebody a bit safer if you're a contender. And if you're not a contender, sell the 26-year-old running back anyway at peak value while everybody believes in him. Get a top 8 rookie pick this year, a mid-first next year, a young wide receiver like Christian Watson. You guys can see here with each of these guys, I'm going to talk about who you should actually aim to sell them for, because it's, one thing for me to say, oh, sell this player. It's another thing for me to tell you who to sell them for. So a mid-first, 107, 2025 early first, guy like Christian Watson, wide receivers in that area, Brandon Ayuk types, Jerry Jeudy types. That's what I'd be looking to get if I was selling Tony Pollard. Again, you can always buy him back closer to the redraft season if you still believe in his value, but they are probably going to add a running back to that backfield to carry some of the Ezekiel Elliott early down work. So the next running back sell that I'm going to be talking about in this video is Najee Harris. And I probably would have been talking about him as a sell just from a talent perspective, but it's even more so, secured now knowing that the Steelers have also met with 9 running backs leading into the NFL draft. I have him at RB19 in my rankings. He's somehow still at RB1 in Dynasty right now at RB11. 79th overall player for me, 55th overall player on the market. His value is just hella confusing to me. Not only did he regress last year, he lost third down duties, going from a top 3 running back in route participation and targets to running back 18 in targets, running back 20 in route participation this past year. So they've already kind of shown that they're going to veer away from workhorse Najee Harris. So that upside that we saw from him in his rookie year when he was a top 5 running back with like the best workload in the league, I really don't think that exists anymore. The Steelers bringing in 9 running backs, 4 visits doesn't shock me one bit. And here's the thing too. Najee's perception in Dynasty is down. It's a lot of people are fed up with Najee Harris. They're not excited about him because he disappointed from a redraft perspective. And he's also a little bit older for a guy that's only going into his 3rd year. He's like 25 years old already. So if the Steelers add a guy like Rashaad Johnson or something, it's going to sewer Najee Harris's value. Even if you like Najee Harris, to me, there's no reason to hold him right now and endure an unnecessary risk, at least with a guy like Tony Pollard. People like Tony Pollard, and he probably wouldn't swan dive in value if they added a back to the Cowboys backfield. I seriously doubt the Steelers are just going to roll into the season with Najee Harris as a workhorse again. They're going to add somebody, whether it's Chase Brown, Tank Bigsby, Kendre Miller, Rashaad Johnson, DeWayne McBride, all of these guys whom they've met with. They also have a lot of draft capital in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round area. So they definitely are a risk to add a running back to this backfield. And I think you need to sell Najee Harris right now as far as what you should get for him. Right now, according to Keep Trade Cut, he's similarly valued to a guy like Daniel Jones in Superflex. That would be an easy move to make, in my opinion. Jameson Williams, if you're looking for a young wide receiver, again, that Christian Watson, Jerry Jeudy territory, also probably not very far off. Devontae Adams, a 2024 mid-first tight end like TJ Hawkinson. These assets are just way more secure than Najee Harris long-term. And honestly, from like a point production standpoint, I think you're going to get more out of them as well. So I would be selling Najee Harris yesterday if you guys have him on your roster. The next guy that we're going to talk about is Rachaad White, running back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Running back 25 in my rankings right now, running back 22 according to Keep Trade Cut. He is ranked 103 overall for me, 100th overall according to Keep Trade Cut. As a Bucs fan, I can almost guarantee you that Rachaad White will not just be alone in this backfield. We are going to cut Leonard Fournette. He's not cut yet, I believe, because it's like some kind of contract mumbo jumbo, but I know for a fact that they want a running back to complement Rachaad White, because every Bucs beat reporter that I've heard is talking about them adding running back help in the NFL draft. And what's weird is even though they've met with 8 running backs and the conventional wisdom is, okay, Rachaad White was a great pass catcher coming out of Arizona State, they're probably going to add an in-between the tackles banger to take over for Leonard Fournette. They've actually met with mostly pass catching backs with Jahmyr Gibbs, Rashaad Johnson, who's great on 3rd down, Deuce Vaughn, who's obviously a scat back, Tajay Spears, Kenny McIntosh, and then guys like Mo Ibrahim and Zach Evans and some other guys there. White is a good running back, don't get me wrong, but my issue with him coming out of Arizona State is that he's not a very good pure runner. He's a good receiving back, but why I was lower on him is because he didn't have a ton of refinement coming out of school. His EPA ranked 137th in the NFL last year among running backs on the ground. So to me, I think they're probably going to add a guy to shoulder a workload there. A guy like Kendre Miller, DeWayne McBride, somebody who's a good pure runner in rounds 3, rounds 4, round 5 of the NFL draft. But the fact that they're messing around with Jahmyr Gibbs types as well just tells me that they need help any way that they can get it. I'd be completely floored, in my opinion, if the Bucs leave the top 4 rounds without drafting a running back. And that's going to hurt Rachaad White's trade value, his value on the open market. So if you guys have Rachaad White, I would 100% try and sell him before the NFL draft. Go after guys like, Zay Flowers, or a pick that would get you in that range, a tail end of the first type of pick. Russell Wilson, Geno Smith at quarterback, Rashad Bateman at wide receiver. an early second rounder, maybe get 2 2s in 2024 for him as well. So to me, I think Rachaad White is definitely one of the biggest sells. And full disclosure, those first 3 guys are 100% better sells than these next 3 guys, especially if you guys play in more sharper leagues. These next 3 guys are going to be harder to sell because a lot of people recognize that their value is down or they have concerns. But if you guys play in more casual redraft centric leagues, listen up and pay close attention because these guys could be huge, huge profits for you. Dameon Pierce is the next guy that we're going to talk about. And again, more casual leagues, he's going to be a bigger sell candidate than he is in sharper leagues because people are baking in the fact that he's a 4th-round running back with not a lot of draft capital into him in sharper leagues. I have him at RB18. He's RB17, 80th overall, 81st overall. So I don't think he's a huge, huge sell by any means. Early in the season, this guy was like a top 8 dynasty running back after breaking out at the beginning of the year. And while his value on the market is about where I have him, we are still not out of the woods with Dameon Pierce. He's a 4th-round running back. Any addition to his backfield is going to affect his value, shake up his value. And even though the Texans brought in a guy already in Devin Singletary, which I think was like a good best case scenario for a guy like Dameon Pierce, they're still 5th on this list in terms of how many running backs they've met with, right? They've met with 5 running backs, guys like Sean Tucker, Kendre Miller, Zach Evans, and Tajay Spears. So they could absolutely add, a Tajay Spears type in the 2nd round, in the 3rd round, in the 4th round, whatever. And that is going to shake up the value of Dameon Pierce. This class is very deep, man. NFL teams are not going to be looking at their board thinking, oh, I need to add more running backs to my team. But when they stack their boards, they stack them based on talent. And if they're on the board in the 3rd round and all the O linemen and cornerbacks that they wanted to draft are off the board, they're going to be like, well, our best available player is Tajay Spears. I guess we'll take him here, even though we don't really need him. In sharper leagues, people are adjusting their expectations to this for Pierce. But in casual leagues, I am sure you can re-roll Dameon Pierce into a 2024 first right now, into a young wide receiver. You guys can see some of the value adjacent players here. Trade him right now for Marquise Brown if you can get him. Trade him for, Christian Kirk if you can get him. Even quarterback equity like Jared Goff or Will Levis or somebody even a little bit deeper, I'd be willing to do that for. You guys can see just a number of the pieces that you can get for Dameon Pierce right now. And this is keep trade cut. Keep trade cut generally is a pretty even balance between redraft centric players and more sharper players. Like I said, it's going to vary league to league what you can get for him. But if you can get anything that resembles a 1st-round pick, I would probably sell Dameon Pierce before the NFL draft because there's a good chance you will not get that after the NFL draft. So the last 2 guys that we're going to get into, I've just grouped together here because in sharper leagues, these guys are going to be very, very difficult to trade. Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook. I'm going to group them together because in the leagues that I play in, literally nobody wants these guys. Kamara with probably an impending suspension. The Saints have also met with 7 running backs, which is top 5 in the NFL right now. Dalvin Cook has been in the discussion of trade talks. We've heard reports and rumors that he might be shopped on draft night, stuff like that. The Vikings have also met with 4 running backs and could be a surprise Bijan spot in round 1 if you were to slide down a little bit. So to me, these guys are like ticking time bombs. I do not want them on my roster. If people are still willing to buy into, oh, I'm going to get 1 more year of like RB2 or better production, sell them. And what do you sell them for? If you have Dalvin Cook right now, apparently you can sell them for David Montgomery, which I would easily do. Pick 203, Mike Williams, pick 204. You get an early to mid 2nd round pick in this year's class. I'm easily re-rolling Dalvin Cook into a young wide receiver that I could get there, or a tight end potentially, or another running back that might have like 3rd-round draft capital or something like that. And Alvin Kamara is a little bit lower in keep trade cut value right now because of the impending suspension. But if you can get a mid-2nd rounder for him in 2023 and 2024, I would do it. If you can get a production piece like Keenan Allen, if you guys are in a winning window and you're like, oh, I need to hold Alvin Kamara because he's going to help me win, just trade him for an older wide receiver. Go after DeAndre Hopkins, go after Mike Evans, go after Keenan Allen, somebody like that, or go after a 3rd quarterback, potentially like a Jimmy Garoppolo. To me, I would just be selling these guys no matter what. They are not guys that I want to hold after the NFL draft because I do expect both the Saints and Vikings to address the running back position at some point. These guys are over the hill. They started to fall off last year. They're dealing with some injuries in Dalvin Cook's case. They're dealing with a suspension in Alvin Kamara's case. I don't want them on my team, and I'm going to sell them to somebody who does. So that is the end of the video. Like I said, I was only talking running backs in this video because typically the guys most affected by the NFL draft are running backs because it's an opportunity-based position. But there are some quarterbacks that would be kind of guys that I'd be potentially looking to sell before the NFL draft as well. I think Geno Smith is in danger of potentially losing some value if the Seahawks decide, hey, we're not going to be picking very high in the NFL draft every year. We might go after an Anthony Richardson, trade up with the Cardinals and go get ahead of the Colts or something like that. That's a risk for me, and it's worth shopping Geno for. Also, Jimmy Garoppolo, the Raiders have met with literally every quarterback. They're a risk to potentially trade up for a quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo basically on like a 1-year deal. So I probably wouldn't buy too much stock into him being like a top 20 quarterback for the next 3 to 4 years, they could absolutely go after a Will Levis at 7 or trade up for a Stroud or a Young if one of them slides, with some chaos there at number 1 and number 2. So definitely check out those players. Go after some trades. Try and get them off of your roster. If you're looking for players to buy, we talked about those early in the week for contenders and for rebuilders. So check those videos out. If you want all of my dynasty rankings, all of our rookie rankings, rookie draft guide coming out next week to break down all the grades I gave to most of the top prospects, all of the top prospects, then you can check out flockfantasy.com and use the promo code FSE when you sign up for 30% off. Plus, you get a free 2-day trial to see all the value on the website from us, from Flock Fantasy, Mason over there, from Zach and Badake at Fantasyland and Dynastyland, and Pierre and Chris over at Fantasy Endgame. We've teamed up to bring you guys one site for all of our bonus content, all of our rankings. You get that all for one price. Like I said, promo code FSE for 30% off. Sign up monthly or get 6 months for free when you sign up annually, and get a 2-day free trial to check it all out. So with that being said, peace out, and I'll talk to you soon.